tasting, but the wines are lovely as usual. Thank you for putting this on. The sparkling wines are excellent. The vin jaune is excellent. The macvins actually I quite enjoy. I haven't had those in a while. The Pinots are delicious. There's a Chardonnay at the table here. I can't recall the gentleman's name. They're crisper wines. They're not necessarily oxidized, but very, very nice concentration. Really nice acidity as well. So excellent wines.
So, what did you find interesting today?
A distinct and unique style for the region, and many producers sort of doing slight variations on a unique sort of bunch of varietals, Savagnin, Trousseau, Poulsard, and variations on Chardonnay, which I found very interesting, complex, and also inspiring.
How do we make the wines of Jura a little bit more successful within the Ontario market?
I was listening to Jeff from Woodlot upstairs, and I think perhaps a unification, if many of the sommeliers or wine buyers in Toronto, with all the new restaurants coming up, do have a focus and a passion for Jura. They understand the quality, they understand the unique nature of these wines, and I think if perhaps as a community we would all support the agents who are bringing these wines in by putting them on our list, we would sort of allow a greater exposure to a wider variety of clients, so they're hitting those wines. Each restaurant that they're trying is it a wine bar, as I'm running myself, or a restaurant in a food scenario, and therefore there would be a greater knowledge instead of just going to one place. Oh, I had this great wine and I don't see it anywhere else. Maybe it needs to be there needs to be a unification or a union of buyers, sommeliers, to sort of join together and put what we have on these wines so we can bring them in. It's fantastic wines that I've tasted. They don't have representation in Ontario, for the most part, just Quebec or nowhere at all. And I think as for France, there needs to be an uplifting or support or promotion of these wines, because I think they're fantastic. And all of them are natural, which is very interesting, or just traditionally just fantastic. Anyways, sorry. You know I can talk a lot.
What do you think of the wines exhibited today, Zinta?
I think they are surprisingly elegant. I think there's a lot of finesse, and the acidity just balances so well with that rustic nature of the Jura wines.
And which wines excited you the most?
Wow, you're going to make me name producers now. I have them written down.
Was there any particular wine style that you found yourself particularly attracted towards?
I love the sparklings, and I actually love the Chardonnay Savagnin blends. I love when there's that sort of exotic fruit note and the spice from the Savagnin blended with the richness and the apple character, freshness of the Chardonnays.
How do you think we can make the wines of the Jura work within the Ontario marketplace?
I think the most important thing with Jura wines is to remember that they go with food. They have the acidity, they have the balanced characteristics, they are made to go with food. And I think that's so important with wines in general. People want just a punch of flavor in their mouth when they're thinking about wines, but wine is intended to have that balance and balance whatever you're eating, and Jura wines are perfect for that.
One of the things I have to say is that there was such a fascinating range of flavors. I mean, it was a tasting that takes you outside of any of your comfort zones that you might be familiar with. I'm a fan of the Jura wines, there's no question. What's also interesting to note is that many of the vineyards, I think in fact the greatest percentage of vineyards of any region in France are farmed organically and biodynamically, and there's a real strong movement behind non-interventionist winemaking, natural winemaking, however you want to call it, and the result is just a great range of antique flavors that you might have experienced 200, 300, 400 years ago, and that hopefully we'll continue to experience for the next several hundred years.
How do we get people to drink a little bit more wine from Jura in Toronto?
Step number one is to make them available. One of the frustrating things about this tasting is moving around the room and meeting a lot of great producers. Their wines aren't represented, or they're very difficult to obtain. They have to be brought in through private order. I think just a little bit of effort to make them available to restaurateurs would be the first step into making them more widely tasted, enjoyed, as they are in Quebec and Montreal. You go to a wine bar and Jura is represented on the list. That's just not the case here yet in Ontario.
Well, the Jura for Ontario, so this is kind of still will be new and small market still. Even for Jura, wine nowadays, most wine is sold in France. I think they want to get to the market to here in Ontario, and it's interesting. There are interesting wines, special wines, oxidate of course. But I wouldn't give them success right away. It's going to take a long time before people taste those wines and understand those wines.
What do I think of the wines? I think that they've got some tremendous ability to shine, and it's a learning experience for people to understand the grapes of the Jura. And I think it's an unsung hero in certain respects because they add different complexity and dimensions, even to the Chardonnays. And Savagnin is a unique grape and lots of pleasant oxidative characters to it that add an added dimension, especially when blended in with the Chardonnay. And the reds have a lot of interesting, the Trousseau is interesting. It's got lots of high acid, but it's got a nice minerality and backbone to it. Another wine to explore in terms of a similarity to lighter Pinots, but it also has a diverse food affinities.
So today I was focusing more on the non-oxidative style of wines. I'm quite familiar with the vin jaunes and the traditionally made Savagnins, but what I find really exciting about Jura is especially the Chardonnays. The quality in terms of the quality in relation to the cost is fantastic. I mean, not quite so cheap once you import them here, and the LCBO gets their cut, and the province gets their cut. But still, in comparison to white Burgundy, I think very serious wines for the money.
What do we have to do to actually expand the appreciation of the wines of Jura within Ontario?
It's hard. I mean, I think part of it comes down to people in the restaurant business. We at George pour a few wines. We've been pouring a Trousseau recently by the glass. Not by the glass, but we pull it out and we use it on the tasting menu. But I think we might have a bit more freedom to do that than a lot of restaurants, in that we still do sort of the tasting menu with pairing wines, and it gives us leeway to open interesting wines because people are paying for pairings, and I think it's easier to introduce people to say a Trousseau in that way than to get them to spend $15, $20 for a glass of it. That would probably still be a hard sell. So we do our bit, and we've also had Crémants de Jura as our house sparkling for a while. We don't have it right now, but we have had it in the past as our house sparkling wine. So I think these are the ways that people will get introduced to it. I think it has to come because it's such it's not a huge region. It's not that well known here, so I think it has to come through the industry, through the professionals.
Your thoughts on the wines today?
My thoughts on the wines today. Many of them were very good, many of them were very mediocre in our market.
And mediocre in what kind of way?
Oxidized.
Oxidized, but
And I'm not talking about the I'm not talking about the vin jaune. I'm talking about some of the other ones. But the fresh wines from 2010, they're fine. But it depends on the price point too.